People meet, people fall in love, get married, most, to live together and happily, some, to do illegal things. Everyone knows about Bonnie and Clyde. But there have been other criminal couples in history who have become famous for brutal murders and atrocities. What united them? What made them commit crimes together? Is it really love? Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, let's start with them. And believe me, this will be the most harmless story in today's collection. America's 13 Scariest Serial Killers. 1. Ted Bundy. How many years he spent in prison? About 13 years before his execution in the electric chair. How many victims? 20 confirmed, 30 recognized, from 36 to 100 potential murders in total. First on our list is Ted Bundy. We have already mentioned this serial killer in an article on the phenomenon of fan communities that appear around the name of a famous maniac. Why did Ted Bundy end up on this list? It has been established that this serial killer, who committed his crimes in the United States, killed 30 young women and children before he turned 30 years old. The famous Bundy magazine about life, cheese and intermediate states, royal cheese. Are you his charm and charisma? And he conducted criminal activity for 4 years, in the period from 1974 to 1978. The story of Ted Bundy caused a public outcry, as he escaped from prison twice. During the second escape, he managed to kill 3 more people. His victims were 2 women and 1 12-year-old girl. The serial killer's life ended in the electric chair on January 24, 1989, when he was 42 years old. Raymond Fernandez and Martha Beck, these cute fatties are notorious serial criminals known as the Lonely Hearts Killers. Raymond and Martha met by chance. He got out of prison and was frantically thinking about what to do for a living now. Of course, not to work, you will say too. That's not why Mom raised the flower. Raymond decided to live off the weak, single women. There was no Tinder in the 40s. Fernandez studied marriage ads in the magazine Mother Denen's Lonely Hearts Club. He met women, ingratiated himself with them, and then robbed them. Everything went smoothly, but one day Raymond met Martha. The puzzle came together, the pot found the lid. The lady turned out to be even more unscrupulous than the conman. Martha agreed to help Fernandez with his business. Apparently, she really fell in love with the hot Spaniard, so much so that she even gave her 2 children to the Salvation Army orphanage, just to be with him. Posing as brother and sister, the couple continued to seduce naive women. But soon Martha began to get jealous. It was unbearable for her to watch her lover courting others. One of these outbursts of jealousy ended in murder. Martha hit one of her rivals on the head with a hammer. Fernandez finished what he started, strangled his victim. It was impossible to stop after that. Civil spouses committed several murders in a similar pattern. The last murder was a double one, along with the next victim of a marriage scam. Her 2-year-old daughter fell under the distribution. She greatly disturbed Martha with her crying and was drowned in a barrel of water. Vigilant neighbors were concerned about the disappearance of a woman with a child and contacted the police. Raymond and Martha were found quickly. They were charged with 20 murders, but they confessed to only 3. In 1951, both went to the electric chair. As the story goes, both remained true to their feelings to the end. I want to shout about it. I love Martha. What does the public know about love? Raymond declared before his execution, "My story is a love story. Only those who are tormented by love know what I'm talking about," Martha said. But can a feeling that brings torment be called love? David and Catherine Burney, the faces of these two are little associated with bright feelings. And yet there is also a villainous love involved in this story. Or not love, decide for yourself. David and Catherine met when they were teenagers. The girl was not afraid of the mental instability of the chosen one. He was distinguished from childhood by unmotivated cruelty and sexual deviations. Since like is drawn to like, we conclude that she herself had similar inclinations. As time has shown. But Kat had a chance. When David was imprisoned, she got together with a nice guy and gave birth to 6 children. And then the fateful meeting, the memories, everything started spinning again. Catherine left her husband and began to live with her old love. Love had turned into a complete psychopath by that time. The idea of the first murder was in full swing in his head. Catherine, emotionally dependent on her husband, agreed to help him. The first murder occurred in October 1986. Bernie lured a 22-year-old girl into his own apartment and bullied her for 3 days. Then the couple took the unfortunate woman to the park and killed her. Over the next month, the couple committed 4 more murders, and each time Catherine helped her husband. On the 3rd murder, the woman turned from an accomplice into a real murderer. The fact is that David began to feel some semblance of feelings for his victim, yes, even animals have attachments, and decided not to kill her. Catherine realized this and gave her husband an ultimatum: either he kills the girl, or Catherine commits suicide. Tom had no choice but to deal with this victim as well. The bloody marathon lasted about a month and ended with the escape of another kidnapped woman. A 17-year-old naked girl escaped from a damn apartment through a window and rushed to people asking for help. The couple was quickly caught and given as many as 4 life sentences. David hanged himself in his cell in 2005. Catherine is still alive. In 2010, she could have been released early, but the Attorney General of Western Australia personally opposed this. In Catherine's case, it says in black and white, "Never release." Ed Gein. How many years he spent in prison? 26 years. Died in custody in 1984. How many victims? 1 confirmed, 2 recognized, 5 suspected. Ed Gein was convicted of the murder of only 1 woman. Still, that didn't stop him from getting the nickname, the Plainfield Butcher. He is known as a terrible serial killer for the reason that a whole collection of things made of human remains was found in his house. For example, in his house, the authorities found a belt made of nipples, as well as leggings, a corset, seats, and a lampshade made of human skin. Gein confessed to only 2 crimes, as well as the theft of bodies from a magazine about life, cheese, and intermediate states, Royal Cheese. Are you 9 graves? There are suspicions that Ed kept silent about other crimes committed. Gein pleaded not insane, but was placed in a psychiatric hospital at the Waupun prison, where he spent the rest of his life, until 1984. The killer died at the age of 77. It is believed that this serial killer became the prototype of characters like Norman Bates from Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 thriller Psycho and Buffalo Bill from Thomas Harris's novel The Silence of the Lambs, released in 1988. The second murder occurred 2 weeks before the wedding of our handsome men. And again, an underage girl, Old Paul, turned out to be a pedophile. The bride and groom kidnapped 14-year-old Leslie, after which Paul bullied her for a day. And then he strangled, dismembered, and threw the remains into a local lake. Carla was present at the bullying and comforted the girl in between. She gave her a teddy bear. What a touching concern. Carla's nerves broke down after the 3rd murder. This time, the victim was 15-year-old Kristen. Carla took 6 videotapes from her husband, on which he captured all his exploits, and went to the police. Paul was given a life sentence, and his wife was sentenced to only 12 years, apparently for actively helping the investigation. The killer got out of prison back in the early 2000s. For a long time she hid from journalists, but they still managed to unearth that Carla lives in Guatemala with her husband and 3 children. According to the latest information, she got a job volunteering at a school. The parents of the children were strongly opposed, but the school management assured that Carla never stays alone with the children. Susan and James Carson, these guys were ideological. They didn't kill everyone in a row, not for fun. They declared themselves to be nothing less than modern witch hunters. Susan and James met in 1977. At first, nothing foreshadowed ordinary people, not the youngest. The woman had a failed marriage behind her, after which she left 2 children. James was also divorced. His wife left him on her own, unable to bear the abuse. But Susan was not confused by this. She would make her husband the happiest in the world. And, in general, I did. In general, the wife was the main one in this couple. It was she who encouraged her husband to rid the world of witchcraft. Namely, to seek out witches among people and kill them. The criteria by which the couple calculated the witches were simple. They allegedly radiated evil energy. It was the first time they sensed such energy from their neighbor. The woman was hit on the head with a frying pan and 10 stab wounds. Then the witches began to come across more and more often. Perhaps it was all about hallucinations from marijuana, which both spouses loved dearly. Susan and James kept strict records. They compiled lists of potential witches and wizards. This list included U.S. President Ronald Reagan and other celebrities. Before they were caught, the couple managed to kill 3 people. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, which the couple is still serving. Faye and Ray Copeland, what touching old men. They certainly loved each other. The impressionable reader will think and be wrong. Ray and Faye got married in 1940 and lived together all their lives on a ranch in Missouri. They had 5 children. Ray had a reputation among his neighbors as a crook and a bandit, so they preferred not to mess with him. But who would have thought that this good-looking old woman was not only not embarrassed by her husband's criminal past, she herself helped him in the murders. Together, the elderly couple committed several crimes. It all came to light by accident. One of the Copeland's employees found human bones on the ranch and rushed to the police. At first, they reacted with disbelief, but after they learned about the criminal record of the owner of the farm, they came with a search. And sure enough, bones were found on the site, and in the barn, the remains of 3 young men killed by firearms. It turned out that Copeland hired vagrants as workers, people for whom no one would stand up. When all the juices were squeezed out of the unfortunate man, Ray simply killed him with a shot in the back of the head. When the investigation machine started spinning, Faye tried to appear in court in the image of a decent mother of a family who knew nothing about her husband's affairs and suffered from his abuse herself. However, both spouses were accused of 5 murders. Faye had a list of the names of the dead tramps, with a cross in front of each name. Ray, 76, and Faye, 69, were sentenced to death. Upon hearing this, the woman burst into tears out loud right at the trial. Ray said dryly, "Well, you know, these things happen to some people." A sweet old man, sympathetic. As a result, Ray did not live to see his lethal injection. He died in a cell awaiting death, and Faye's sentence was commuted to life. In 2002, after a stroke, she asked for conditional release in order to die outside the walls of prison. Faye's request was respected, and in 2003 she died quietly in a nursing home. It is not reported whether her 5 children and 17 grandchildren attended the funeral. Charles Starkweather and Carol Ann Fugate, "Love is evil, you will love a goat," offended ladies often repeat. In my opinion, it's better to love 3 harmless goats than 1 natural scumbag, and Carol fell in love. She was 14 when she met Charlie, an 18-year-old blockhead with the habits of a cruel beast. The guy had no authority, no principles, he just did what he wanted. At the age of 14, this behavior may seem inspiring. Carol admired her boyfriend's lifestyle. And it seems that he experienced human feelings for the first time, pampered his girlfriend, got a job as a loader for her. But I quickly realized that you can't make a lot of money this way. Therefore, he committed the first serious crime. He robbed and killed a man. Carol knew everything and, as always, justified her beloved. And what about the parents? Of course, they were against such an acquaintance, but who would listen to them? On January 21st, 1958, Charles came to a friend's house, but her mother made a scandal, telling the guy to get out. Oh, she shouldn't have done that. By the time Carol returned from school, the girl's stepfather came out, and the scandal turned into a large-scale fight. The scumbag grabbed a gun and shot both parents. And then Carol's 2-year-old sister, just so that she wouldn't get in the way. Furthermore, hold on, it's going to be tough. The couple had sex, adrenaline rush, yeah, hung a note on the door, stay away. There was a flu epidemic in the house and lived quietly for a whole week in the same house with the corpses. A few days later, the relatives and colleagues of the victims became worried. Carol lied, saying that everything was fine, they were just sick. But even such diehards realized that they had to run away, otherwise they would be imprisoned. The further journey of the young couple can be described as follows: a sea of blood, sex, and gasoline. They traveled around the cities, killing random acquaintances and family friends, took the money and moved on. Of course, it couldn't have lasted that long. By that time, the scumbags were already being searched. The police entered Carol's parents' house and saw a terrible picture. The lovers were searched for and captured at the scene of another murder. With regard to Charles, everything was clear at once: the death penalty, period. He didn't seem to worry much, saying that he doesn't regret anything and still hates all people. But with Carol, the lawyers had to think hard. At the time of the murders, she was only 14, and it was logical to present the case in such a way that she was not an accomplice, but a hostage of a maniac. But Carol was found guilty anyway. However, because of her youth, the electric chair was replaced with a life sentence. In 1976, the murderer was released early. She changed her last name and lives quietly, refusing to talk to the press. It is known that even after many years she did not admit guilt and called herself a victim of circumstances, love, or so. What motivated these couples, so different in age, origin, nationality? Painful addiction, pathology, passion, anything but love. A real feeling does not scream about itself, does not tear the heart with wild emotions. It is quiet, bright, and calm. It brings goodness and light, not the destruction of oneself and others.